one of the issues you also feel strongly about is the ability for Africans to actually be able to reconnect to their land. Right, we've seen this similar cases. I mean, most of the wars that are being fought is for land, especially, let's say, in South Africa and the DRC. There's a lot of conversation around we need to have our land back. So why do you think it's important for, especially for Africans, to actually reconnect back to their lands as well?
Well, first of all, a landless people is like, first of all, you don't have a home. And I mean, when I really think about us as a people, what comes out of the land in terms of the resources, and particularly our food systems, if we don't have any land, we can't feed ourselves. And anyone who feeds you controls you. Anyone who feeds you controls you. And that's just the truth of the matter. So Africans, first, we need to feed ourselves. We need to have land to feed ourselves. We need to have land so we can have the resources we need to develop communities and societies the way that we want it, you know. And it's not offensive. It's not offensive to say, give us back our land. It's really not offensive. Just like it is not offensive for us to say, Africans abroad, come back home. You know, come back to your land. Because you look at every other indigenous people across the globe, and they're what they may call the diasporan, sends their money and the resources and everything back home so they can go back home and live well and build and live comfortably at home. No, I think Africans have been the most traveled people on the continent, in the world. In every continent, every country you go to, you find African people all across the world, whether it's what they may call mixed race or whatever. African people are everywhere. So we need to take a certain sense of pride and responsibility in Africa. First, reconnecting to each other and reconnecting to these lands so that we can begin to build, preserve, protect it, and allow it to do for us, because the land will do for us. And Africa, it has a spirit about it. These lands have a spirit. And if you treat it right, it does you right. You'll have experiences you would never imagine or wouldn't think you would come across for doing the right thing to this land. So if you don't have a land, we don't have anything to do right to, you know. It's like a motherless child. Having no land is like a child without a parent. So we have to have that which we came out of so that we can in turn take care of it. It's so important. And for us to build, we can build and grow without having the essence of who we are. And a people without a land, or without your indigenous language, or without your indigenous culture, that's a lost people. And like Marcus Garvey say, a tree without roots is dead. So we need to know our history that connects us to land, languages, and cultures. And these cultures, in our cultures, you look in all our African cultures, there's an essence of God in it. There's an essence of preserving nature in it. There's an essence of, environmental responsibility in all our cultures. And so the land, the language, and the cultures all connect. So we have to have all components, all three components, for us to begin to live what I would call a godly life again and build godly societies the way that we want to build it with our African minds, with our concept of God, with our concept of nature and preservation of nature, with our concept, not a foreign one that's indigenously African and one that comes out of us.
Yeah, that's very true. Because even if you look at even the Kenyan context, when it comes to, let's say, in December, most of the people actually always find time to go back to the village to try and reconnect. It's one of my favorite things to do, actually, in the end of the year. Every single time I go back and just walk in the land and see, hey, this is where we used to put our cows, this is where they used to stay, or this is where we used to grow avocados, or this is where we used to grow some fruit. So I think there's that positivity or that sort of rejuvenation when you go back to your homeland and just try to connect and the people around you. So I do think there's something around that, whether it's spiritual or it's just make you more comfortable.